Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday afternoon's tutorial. Now, today we're going to go through the last week's practical. The practical was due last week. The idea is for you to see an implementation of the design and basically of the code, but more the design and less the code, so that you can see kind of what we're expecting from you, just at a basic level, essentially. So without further ado, let's start off this. So the problem was about a gym that has clients that are complaining that they're gaining weight. So a local gym has approached you to help them develop a Visual Studio application. The issue that the gym's clients are complaining, sorry, the issue is that the gym's clients are complaining that they are gaining weight during lockdown because the gym is closed, and they don't feel safe exercising on the road. And obviously, the result of that is they're not exercising at all. So the gym would like you to create an application that would track the weight gain of their clients for a set number of weeks. Now, if we look at the program requirements that you had, the program must be able to handle any number of clients as well as any number of weeks. You may assume that each client is tracked for the same number of weeks. So when a client is being processed, the following information about them is captured. So you've got the name of each client, the age, the gender, and for each week the client is tracked, the client's weight is entered, and the average, that's actually part of a function. And then after you've captured that information, you would like to calculate the average weight increase, and also the total weight increase for each client. And then you want to ultimately calculate the average weight gain for all the clients combined, so they can kind of have an idea of how fat are people getting, if we put it out like that. Then, information that you need to display. So for each client, you need to display the client's name, the weight entered each week, the average weight gained, and the total weight gained. And then lastly, you want to display the average weight gain for all the clients combined. Now, the first thing you'll notice here is we are capturing information that we're essentially not displaying. So we've got the age and the gender, but we never display that. And if we look at the functions down here, do we ever use that? Do we ever use that information? You guys are very quiet today. Guys, can you hear me? Guys and girls? Yes, okay. So do we ever use age and do we ever use gender? No, not in this practical. Okay, so looking at the design, you know there are 8 things that need to be part of your design, and that is the input, the output, events and actions, variables, interface, algorithms, UML, and then test data. Test data we are not going to discuss inside the PowerPoint slides itself. These slides will be uploaded afterwards. But essentially, you just need to create some test data for you to test your application, kind of like a preemptive. These are the values I'm going to feed into my program, and these are the values that I know that should come out of my program, so you can see whether it's correct or not. So the first thing we look at is the input required, and the program very nicely outlines what we need. We need to be able to handle any number of clients and any number of weeks. So we can already see that we need number of clients and number of weeks as an input. We need the client info as an input. So the name, the age, the gender, and then for each week, the weight. And is there anything else that we need? Or is that everything? Let's see how many of you are awake. Come on, surely you guys are there. No, everything. Oh, if this was a class, I could have pointed and said, please answer. Yes. Is there anything else that we need? We have no conflicting answers. No. All right. So let's go forward then. Then the output. So for the output, we need the name, the weight for each week for the clients, the average weight gain for the client, and then the total weight gain by the client or for the client, and then ultimately as well as the average weight gained by all the clients. After that, we go back to our events and our actions. So in this design, I'm doing a 3-button design or a 3-button implementation. So in the first button, we've got the actions of initializing or setting up our program. So we retrieve the numbers, of clients, we retrieve the number of weeks, we read them out clients. Now, is this an accurate way of display or describing it? Is read them an accurate way of describing this? Why not? Why is it not an accurate way of describing it? Resize, yes, that's a better way of describing it. Clients array, yes, but why is readem instead of resize not? It shouldn't be resize since we're doing a design. No, resize is a better description. But why? Why is readem not an ideal description? Yes, there we go. Because it's a VB specific terminology. When you do a design, you don't really do a design with the language in mind. As the first approach. So you do a design based on you're going to code this, but you don't know what you're going to code this in yet. So it's basically just an explanation of what needs to be done, an explanation of the procedures or the actions that need to be taken. And then you need to resize the weight array for each kind as well. And then lastly, place the results. So when we set up our button, we retrieve our 2 values that we need, our number of clients and our number of weeks. We resize our client array. We resize the weight array that will be inside our clients or the weight array for the weeks. And then we place the labels in the grid. Let's just add for the grid here, maybe. Right. Then we have our second button, which is read display, which is going to read in our information and then display the information as well. And here I have input information for each client. Let's see. No announcements. You didn't miss any announcements. We're just going design for Prac 3 now. So it's basically just a run through of vaguely what was expected from your design for Prac 3. And then we're going to the code implementation. Right. So then we have the next button, which is the read and display. We just input the information for each client and then also display the information. I forgot to add this one. Display information. Now, can I describe it like this? This is accurate. Is that accurate? Is it okay? Is it too vague? Is it too ambiguous? Should I add more detail? What do you guys think? What would you add there? Or what did you add there? Where to display? That is a good idea. Anything else? What information we should display? We can add that as well. I guess it's the same for what we're doing up here. So you can probably go name, age, gender, weight. I guess weight we can just add. Let's use the UML style. So we've got our weight. So you kind of describe the just a little bit more there. You basically just describing the information that's going in, the information that's being captured, and the information being displayed is age and weight. I mean, name and weight. You don't have to use this specific notation when displaying or when describing the information. In fact, you don't even have to add this at all. But I think it's a nice idea. Having an idea of what information you're capturing and what information you want to display is important inside your design, so that you can kind of get the feel of what you want to do. And lastly, we've got a user clicks on the calculate button, which calculates the client average weight gain, calculate client total gait weight, and then calculate average weight gain of all clients. Yes, you can talk. I think you can. Yes, you can talk. You had your hand up, or were you just stretching there? No, it's okay. Okay. I'm assuming I just discussed your answer, or just answered your question before you asked it, or you saw the solution. Okay. Is there anything else we need to add here? Is that sufficient? So we're calculating the client average weight gain. I guess we should add here for each client. And is there anything else we need to add here? It's okay. So we're calculating 3 things. When do we display it? So we need to add that we're going to display information. You can add display locations. In this case, I'm not going to add the location here because we've got 2 different locations. But I'm just going to go to display information. You can add, I say, let's maybe go the first 2 options is the grid, and the last one is text box. It doesn't look very nice. I know it's. If I had to do this formally, I wouldn't do it like that. I would rather below that say display client average, display client total, and then display weight gain of all clients in a text box, and then those 2 in a grid. That would be a better way to describe it, but as long as you get the gist of what needs to happen, it doesn't actually matter that much. See, as long as I know what's going to happen here, it doesn't really matter, as long as that information is there. Then, no, I'm skipping ahead. Here we go. Then we need our variables. Now, you're probably looking at this and thinking, can it only be 3 variables? Is 3 variables going to be enough? Are 3 variables going to be enough to solve this problem? What do you guys think? You say yes. Global ones, yes, that is correct. So we've got our global ones. Do we include our class instance variables here? And if you're saying yes, why? And if you're saying no, why not? Why not? That is correct. Because our class instance variables are already being displayed inside the UML. It's also the reason why we don't add our class here, the class definition, because we've got the UML that is defining the class, and that is the methods, the property methods, and the constructors, as well as the instance variables that we need. So anything to do with the class is inside the UML, and anything that is global is inside the variable section. Then we have our nice little design. So always try and get a design that's vaguely what you want as your representation. Just keep in mind it never has to be exactly what you're going to code up, because you need to know that things are going to change. This is your design is just a rough idea of what you want to achieve. It's not going to be this is what it needs to be and it cannot change from this. Your design is just that first kind of rough mental run through of this is what I'm envisioning in the program. When you start typing, it's probably going to change. I would say from design to implementation, 99% of the time, something's going to change. It's not going to be exactly the same. You'll realize, oh, but I forgot to add this in my design, but you can do it in your application. For instance, who can tell me what is missing from this interface? Which I just realized now looking at it. What should be there, but is not there? What rows and columns? No. We've got our grid representation. The grid is not labeled. Are you talking about labels inside the grid? If you're talking about labels inside the grid, then no. We don't need to add that in our design. I have a representation of the grid. Total. I'm assuming that is now referring to the label for the total, or the average text box we have. If that is, then yes. We need a label for the text box, because we need to know what that text box is for. How is the user going to know what that text box is for if we don't label it for them? Now, that is something small. And it is something small, but it's something that's going to lose you marks in implementation. But in design, it doesn't really matter, because you're probably going to get to your implementation and be like, okay, I forgot to place a label here. Add a label. No problems. But I don't expect you to go back and redo your interface just to add that small label. Just as a small example. All right. Now, probably for the most important one, algorithms. What code should we show inside our algorithm section? Now, aside from the big red square and the arrow pointing to what should be in the code, who can explain to me, who can tell me, what code are we showing or displaying, basically just writing down in our design? Calculations mainly? That's one comment. Yes and no, not fully just calculations. Pseudocode, well, the algorithm is your pseudocode. You can write down algorithm or you can write down pseudocode, but ultimately it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same code or same procedures that you're going to be showing. Come on, it's right in front of you. Take it as a hint. You've got events and actions, important calculations. Well, yes, the important calculations should be there, but really think about it. Calculations and complicated code? No, not even about the complicated code. What section is being highlighted? Yes. Code that makes up the actions that we describe. So in your events and actions section, you're listing everything that your program needs to do functionally. That is the code you want to, that's the algorithm or the pseudocode you want to display as well. You want to display all the actions or represent all the actions in your pseudocode. So that is what you need to put in your design, is the actions or the pseudocode that perform these actions. So let's look at that. I've broken them down into the 3 buttons. So the first thing is we've got our setup button. And when we look at this, we see we've got end clients and then see into input box. We've got end weeks that retrieves. So we're retrieving the number of clients. We're retrieving the number of weeks. We read them our client array. For each client, we read them our weight. Then we resize our columns. Now, is that a proper algorithm or a proper pseudocode? No, no, it is not. Why is it not? What's missing here? Who can tell me? There's 2 things that are really, really wrong with this, and the other things are kind of less-ish. Yes, yes, read language specific. So that is the first thing. The second thing, come on, who's going to see it? One of you surely have seen it already. Look at my for each line. Is that correct? Correct? No, it's not. All right, so let's go and fix this. So firstly, let's talk about all right, we can do that in the code itself. But let's first talk about this. When we retrieve our number of clients, are we really concerned about the conversion? Not really, because remember, cint in this case is also a language specific thing. We can add making a note that this needs to be converted to an integer. We can add that to an int. Let's just keep it short. Or we can just simply have it as retrieving this value from the input box. When you code it, you'll be aware of the fact that this needs to be converted into a compatible format for end clients. So do that. All right. Same with the number of weeks. Fine, we can do it just like that. But now for clients, we can't just go read them. We need to resize the client array, the client's array. You need to basically describe what you're doing to make it easier to understand. Now, we can't fully go with resize arrays because the second array is contained within this client. So you still want to go for each. You can basically write out the for I equals 1 to end clients. You can write that, but you can also go for I, small I, give me small I, as integer. Does that look right? Just add this. Resize. You can go clients I weight. Basically, yeah, we can go right. And then just to make it easier for us to see that that is our for loop. Does that look okay? Does that make sense to you? Is this how you would do it? Or would you rather describe it as for each client? Or you can go for each, yeah, for each client. N, then just describe this as N. How would you label it? Which one looks better, the first one or the second one? The first one. Why the first one? Personally, I prefer the second one. That might be the syntax of VB for the for loops. Yeah, we can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. Look, as long as you can explain or understand that with this for loop, it's telling you for each value in n clients, or for each value in clients, the array that reaches until n clients, you're going to resize the internal array. As long as you can just describe it, doesn't actually matter that much. Next, yes, I kind of agree with you there, Omar. Personally, for me, I keep it tabbed, so I would keep everything under this for loop tabbed. But for the majority, if just putting the next there, so next n, it just makes them understand that that is where the for loop ends. In some languages, it is tab specific, where your tab, your indentation will dictate when and where which code will run. But in terms of pseudocode, it's okay. You don't need to add it. You can add it. I personally would not add it because it's a for loop. I indent the code or indent my pseudocode there. I understand that, but for someone else, it might be visually easy or more understandable just to add that as well. And then lastly, we've got our resizing of our grid down here. Now, I don't fully agree with this +4, but we'll discuss why it's +4 and not +3. Okay, then going on to the next section, we've got the same things here. So we've got our for loops. This is where it gets a bit tricky if you're doing for loops with the indentation. If you don't put the next there. So this is ultimately why you hate me so much. Next W. And next N. And then I'm just going to leave it like this for now. I'm sure you guys can understand that for each client N, we've got read in the information, display the information. We can go display information inside the grid. We've got our age that we input, we've got our gender that we input, and then we've got our weight that we input as well. All right, and then we just have a next indication for the two. So let's just look at the question. Sir, is this tutorial revision of Lost Weeks Prac? Yes, it is. I'm assuming it came in slightly later. So the design I'm doing right now is basically a revision session for Last Week's Practical, but also going through the design steps, because we saw that a lot of students are confused about what to do with the design. So we're spending a lot of time in the design, but ultimately we're also going to go through the code just quickly, so that you can see what's going on there. All right. All right. So we've got our input, our input and our display, and then we've got our last button for BNC calculate. I'm not going to correct everything here, but once again, you've got your return. So I first label my functions. So these are two functions that are needed. The values that will return from these functions. Now, you probably did not do this. This is my style of doing things. I would put the functions that are required for the button inside the button descriptions. Other people would label the functions on their own and then put the button down here and then just label or use the button as is. That is up to you. See, the fun thing about pseudocode is it doesn't really matter how you write it, as long as you don't copy and paste your code. You can write it out in sentences, you can write it out in a paragraph, you can write it out line by line, which is most of the times more easier. It's easier to understand if you write it out line by line, even if it's just your sentence line by line. But all you got to do is basically just model the application or the procedures or the functions that you want to create, giving you a rough idea of what you need to do. All right. And then lastly, our UML design. So for our UML design, you've got your table name or your class name, which is clients. It's always in the upper grid or the first row. You've got your instance variables, which will always be on your second row. And keep in mind, you need to add the small, there should be a, let me maybe highlight this. You need to remember to add, it's taking a bit longer than I expected now. You need to remember to add these modifiers. You need to make sure that you know that they are private. Down here as well, with the plus signs, you need to make sure you show that they are public. These modifiers are crucial for your design, and so that you know when you code them what you need to code out. It's not just, oh, okay, we'll get there when we get there, but you need to identify whether they're public or private. Now, obviously, you can potentially make a mistake here, but that's okay. You'll correct that when you code it, but it's just a rough idea of what you need to do. So down here, you see we've got our instance variable for name, age, gender, and now weight array. Always keep in mind this array standard. Now you can put it next to the name, next to the instance variable, or you can put it behind the data type. It's okay. If you ever get marked down on that, just let me know, because you shouldn't be marked down on that. It's just a representation of what the instance variable is, which identifies that it's an array of potentially either nothing in the array to basically a near infinite number of values. Then we've got our one constructor. Now this is one thing that most of you probably missed out on in your UML, because you probably thought, okay, we don't need a constructor, we'll leave it out of the design, which is fine. It is actually fine. If you didn't have a constructor, it is fine, because nothing in the text suggests that we actually should have a constructor. So we can do that. Should you say the constructor is void, or you just don't say anything? Okay, now our constructor is essentially a function. I mean a subroutine. So you can add a void if you want to. Here's the thing. For a constructor, there is generally never a return in our instance. And in this case, there is no return from this constructor. So we don't add something, because we're not really describing it's labeled or it's placed under our method sections, but a constructor is something that creates the class. It's never going to return something. It's used to instantiate the values inside the variable section. As Mr. Cottrell said, it's a special type of method as it creates the object itself. So it's never actually going to have a return. So we don't really have to describe it as void. It's a constructor. It's there to construct the class or the object. All right. Everything down here, even your subs, they will need, well, you don't really label subs in your methods, but everything down here is given a return type, even if the return type is void. Because there you label it under functions, and if your function has no return, it's a void. All right. Then you've got your properties, which in our case, there's no special properties. There's just regular public properties, gets and sets are there. And then we've got our methods, our total weight gained to calculate the total weight gained by the client, and then our average weight gained, which is there just to calculate the average over the period. Yes, so a constructor is not a sub either. So it's a special method. It's not really labeled a function. It's not really labeled a subroutine. It's unique. It is special. All right. Any questions regarding the design so far? While I swap over to VB. Any questions at all? Yeah, they're very quiet tonight. Not yet, sir. Ah, so you're keeping your question until we get to the code. Okay, so unique method in the sense that all it does is allocate memory. I wouldn't say allocate memory. So when you create an object, you know what? Let me explain this while giving you the actual code so it maybe describes it better. So if you have a sub in the class, which you need a return type. Well, the subroutine doesn't have a return type. Let's just go here. Cut 2, and today's date is the 11th. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my Visual Studio? No, it doesn't. Why is my... Can you guys see Visual Studios? Okay. I hope you guys can read it as well, because it should be a bit small on your screens, I think. Just see if I can do something about that. All right. Well, you coded it out, so let me know if you have any concerns, and then I'll zoom in. But for now, I'm just going to rename everything. So let's just call this, I'm just going to call it gym over here. Ugh. See, even my machine is tired tonight. Doesn't want to work. We call it the gym system. We're going to add, our design had, let's just see, 3 buttons, a text box, a grid, and a label. Okay. Keep in mind that Larry Tesler is not your friend. His invention is maybe, but it's not a good thing. Add our label, add our text box. Let's add our grid. And there, nice and clean. Okay, so first thing first, always rename your buttons. So we had the first one as setup. I'm not going to be very creative tonight, so I'm just going to say setup for the description or the text as well. Next one was input and display. I'm assuming you guys can still see and hear my screen because my blackboard is going or flickering. If you can't see or hear anything, just let me know. What was our last one? Calculations, PNT calculations. I think I still spelled it wrong there. Right. And the grid. Grid display txt average, and then ultimate label. Average. Okay. Everything is done. So I've renamed everything. I've renamed everything, placed it where I wanted. Let's just maybe move this a bit down, give us some more space, and we're ready to start. Let's see. Mr. Miscottle included our constructor definition. So in Visual Basics, constructor is a method, and it will invoke automatically whenever an instance or class or struct is created. The constructor is useful to initialize and set default values for data members of the new object. So there we have it. Nice and easy definition. I like definitions. All right, so let's first start off with our class. We're going to call this our client class. We can add that. And then as always, the first thing you do is you add option strict, option explicit, in option and option infer forth. Then we can start with our instance variables as we add in our design, which was name, age, almost said ages as gender, integer, and a string. You can have the string or char, it doesn't actually matter. Depends on how you want to represent the gender. Why do I say project? And then lastly, we've got our weight. It is an array of double. Then, what's the next thing you need to add? So we've done our instance variables. So after you've done your instance variables, I recommend first do your getters and setters. Now, this can swap around. I know if you're doing other languages, they prefer doing the constructors before doing the getters and the setters. But because VB has the special property methods, I prefer doing the getters and setters first. So we've got our public property name as integer. No, as string. As doing as integer. What am I doing now? Why are you not also populating for me? There we go. And then we get our value, so we just turn our name and we set our value. So we just say name equals to our value. And then we can quickly do that for all the others. Now, I'm doing something wrong here. Who can tell me what am I doing wrong? Something's missing. Let's see, you can see what's missing. Anyone? Can tell me what's missing? What am I doing wrong? Constructor? No, not yet. The constructor is still coming. It's not something that's going to break the code, but it's something you should add in every program, preferably. It's not value. It's not validation. Even though validation should ideally be everything, there we have it. It's comments. I'm missing comments. You should have comments everywhere. So you can say, variables, you can go and you can label your constructors. I mean, property methods. You can also go and label each one of them. For property methods, I don't. Yes, you need to comment. Comment is good. There's a joke. My aunt gave me this joke. She's a developer in the US, and she tells me regularly if the code was hard to write, it would be hard to read as well. And then one day she came back to me and she said, she found a developer that had the same motto, except that she had to modify his code and she had no idea what was going on. So she basically had to rewrite all of his code because it was so badly written. If it's not readable, it's essentially not always, just because the code is good doesn't always mean that it's good code. Right. Your code should be readable at all times. It should be easy to read, easy to understand, because that means that it is easy to maintain. I'm making it, yeah, I thought so. Index. All right. You know what? I think let's swap this up a bit. Let's return the entire array, because we always talk about the index. Let's return the entire array for once. What do I want to do here? I want to set the value. So I need to set an array. Yeah, I think I'm making a small mistake here. I think that should be it. double. Yeah, that's fine. Right. So as you can see, we've got our property method, which has our function essentially. We've returned our our array. We return our array in our property method, and then we set by retrieving the entire array and then making our instance variable equal to that array. All right. So if you want to see how Mr. Cottrell did it with the index, and last week we did it with the index, I'm just going to swap it up slightly because we did the index a few times, so I think we should show the other way around as well. All right. Then our constructor. Do we need a constructor and why? Do we need a constructor? You can tell me. I should start giving out bonus marks for responses. You'll just see them popping up instantly. Yes, resize weight. Yes, that is correct. We need to resize the weight. So, like I said, some people prefer putting the constructor directly under the instance methods, instance variables, and in most languages, I would do the same thing. I'm just doing this in VB because our property is also kind of like a special method for our class. So after we have our defined things, we have our creator. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm sorry if that confuses some of you. It's just a different way of doing it. I include other things in my constructor. Maybe it's easier when coding in my form. If you say you include other things in your constructor, what are you including? Oh, I think I know what you're doing. Instead of using your property methods, you're using a constructor to set all your values. Not a bad way to do that. It's absolutely not a bad way to do that. What was I about to do? I was about to do my constructor. We're actually getting to that, Omar. So it's good that you're doing that already. We're moving towards that. Just say value here. I like value. The others that might be confused about what I just mentioned. So instead of using the property methods up here when initializing or when inputting your values, he essentially uses a constructor. But Omar, you need to be aware. There's one issue with that constructor. Yes, not just validation, resizing. So when you create each item, that's when you do the resizing. So you need to make sure that you don't resize on the same, that you don't resize twice. I'm not going to say too much. Maybe I'm. You know what? I'm not going to say too much about that. I think I'm just going to confuse people if I do that. So we just want to read them our weight here. Wrong weight. I'm going to read them our weight for our value given. Okay. Now we can do our function. So let's start off with our total weight gained function. So okay, so we start off with our private function total weight gained. Do we have an input? Mr. Fudge was probably screaming at me for using value as all my parameters. would be a double. Right. So you can explain to me, what is this input for? If I include my property methods that contain my validation along with setting values in my constructor, will it be fine? Look, why I don't want to comment too much about the constructor right now is there's a few things that you need to keep in mind, and I don't want to confuse. We don't have enough time to go through everything right now. I think actually on Thursday we have enough time, so maybe we can go over the constructor usage for these examples. But your use of the constructor, maybe just send me your student number, and then I'll have a look at your code and tell you whether it's correct or not. But yes, using constructor to input information into your class is a good idea, as long as you keep in mind what you're doing with it. So in property return weight, I think you forgot to start with an underscore, sir. Where, yes, you are right. Thank you. And that means we don't need to do the brackets. All right, total weight gain. How do we do this? You guys tell me. Let's see who can remember their practicals. Come on, I know you want to. What's the easiest way to do this? How do we calculate the total weight gained by a client? Come on, guys. Scottrell, I think we need to start handing out bonus marks for just answers. Like 0.1 bonus marks for every answer you give. I subtracted from the previous week. Final weight minus initial weight. All right. So Omar, your response, I've subtracted the previous week, only tracks 1 week's worth of difference. Whereas Bandu, I'm assuming, look, if I mispronounce your surname, I'm sorry, I'm very bad with names, but the idea is that you want to calculate the total weight gained. Now, we don't calculate fluctuations. Now, you can go up 1 week, you can go down the next week, but ultimately, you want to calculate the total weight you've gained from the starting point. It's like Weight Watchers. They don't care about how you fluctuate in between as long as you reach your weight loss goal at the end. So here, it's not about how much we go up and down. It's about the final, the beginning and the end, which in this case is going to be the very last weight that we took in, which in this case will be weight value, and the very first value that we took in, assuming I just completely forgot what I wanted to say. So you take the very last weight that you put in, and you take the very first weight that you put in. So that is the very first last time you weighed yourself. So that is your weight currently, and the very first time you weighed yourself. Yes, Masondu.
Maybe value -1.
Value -1. Why are you doing? You're doing the same as Omar then. You're just comparing it to the previous week. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I don't have. Oh, I would love to show you the difference here, but I don't think there's enough time for that. I've got 30 more minutes. Do you guys mind? Do you mind if I go overtime? Do you mind if I go overtime, or you want me to show the difference? Because I can show you the difference. Don't mind. Okay. So let's do the entire program first, and then at the end, I'll show you the difference. That way, the people that can't stay longer, you can go, and the people that will want to see the difference between what is the correct answer and what Omar is suggesting is there. So basically what Omar is suggesting, he wants to look at the total accumulated weight gain. So that is, in total, the amount of weight that's been gained over that period, regardless of whether that is the difference between the first week and the last week. So we're going to show this one first, which is the easiest way to get the correct answer. That's taking the last time you weighed yourself compared to the first time you weighed yourself to see the difference between where you are now and where you were. And then we've got our next function, which is going to be function to calculate the average average weight gained. So this would be public what do we call it in our design? We just called it the average weight gained. Right, and in this instance, all we have to do is we just have to take the total weight gain, give it a value, and then divide that by our value, which essentially is our number of weeks. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Spelling error. All right, so we've got our total weight gain and our average weight gain. So we take our total weight gain, divide that by the number of weeks, which is the value being passed along in our parameter, and that just gives us our average weight gain over that period. Now, going to our design. So we've got our button. Let's maybe just start off from scratch. We've got our option statements, which always go in first. If strict on oh my, trying to do this too quickly. Okay, we need our variables, which was in weeks, in clients, and then we also had our clients. Is an array. Right. And then for our input, we just take our in weeks equal to C in input box. I'm just going to add a default value just to make things easier for us. So are we going to test it? Let's test it with the start of 4 weeks. And in clients equals C int input box. Clients. I think let's. Did I put this in the wrong value? Fine. We'll waste too much time now. Let's just do it the way we're supposed to be doing it. Right. We're gonna end client. I make a oh, title. Thank you, Ms. Cottrell. God, if you want to do a default, you have to put a title there first. Yeah, it's still giving an issue there. Let's see. Default response, that's why. See if it will accept that. No. Default response needs to be a string, that's why. That's why you should read the things. Right. So we have our number of weeks, we have our number of clients, so if we can read them, our clients array quickly. Input box functions. Yes, I love reading those documents. For those that don't actually read the official documents, I would actually highly recommend it. It can only benefit you. Okay, so we've got for let's go see. Teacher equals 1 to end clients. I'm making a mistake somewhere. You can tell me, where's my mistake? He's going to pick up the mistake first. I'm going to leave it just like that. He picks up this mistake first. I'm willing to give 0.1 bonus marks to the person that picks up those mistakes. I think we should start calling it brownie points. I'll give you a brownie point for the person that picks up the mistake first. It's a spelling error. No, it's not a spelling error. Which at this point, don't judge my spelling errors. I'm pretty sure that you'll find a spelling error quite quickly here. Lack of comments? No, it's not the lack of comments this time. But that's a good point. We need to add comments. Just killing my back at the moment. Right, so we've got our comment at the top, and thank you for reminding me about that. You only set the redeem for one of those clients' weights. No, it's all of them. We did weight, and we did see weights, and we're redeeming each one of them essentially. There's something wrong here. I'll give you a hint. There's something wrong here. Check my message, please. Where are you? Ah, there we go. We're not using our constructor. This is supposed to be clients C equal new. Might be wrong here now. Stop that. Client and then our value, which is in weeks. Why are we doing that? Remember, we created the constructor to allow us to redim the array inside the class. That's how we do it. Because if you went with the previous one, the one where I said clients c.wait, that refers to the property method and not the constructor. So you're not actually resizing the array, you're just working with the property method. And in this case, in our property method, it would have given me an error. Because that wait is, I wonder if it will work. They've actually tried it the wrong way. Don't do it the wrong way. You can try it a bit later and see what happens. Okay, and then place labels, which we can go and code out if there's enough time afterwards. I'm already starting to it's okay. So for place labels, all I want to do is just place the labels, and then for place results, so place result as integer, C is integer, T as string. We've got our create display. Ooh. Right. You're supposed to place the results, but just for the sake of time, I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it afterwards when we're done. I'm putting it there so you know you need to place the results. I mean the labels. All right. Then we can go and we can initialize our values. Sorry, not initialize, but read in our values. So we've got for each line, I love VB's autocorrect. sometimes depend on it too much. Not even sometimes. Right. So we just go and we create our names. Now, for anyone that was confused about my comments earlier, when I was talking to Omar about constructors, what we're doing here is we're getting a value from an input box. Say input box and then name of client. And we're essentially doing this for age. We're doing this for clients. But what we're doing is we're changing these values one by one. Sorry, in the sake of saving time, I'm just going to do this for the sake of saving time. Copy and paste is still not your friend. Okay, week as integer. Interesting. So, remember our property takes an entire array? So now, instead of actually setting up this is interesting. I did not teach you the guys this. Okay, I might confuse you slightly now. Excuse me for a moment, but I'll explain to you what's going on in a second. You'll understand in a moment when I show you the difference here. Okay, I'm just putting the dots there for the number of the week. Right, so what is going on here right now? Remember in our property method, instead of taking in a single index, we're taking in the entire array. Do you remember that? Now, the problem here is, now I don't have access to an individual value. I only have access to the entire array, which means I need to give the system the entire array. So I'm basically creating an array, filling that array, and then once I'm done filling that array, telling we're giving that array dot weight making so many mistakes here. I'm sorry. I won't have access to that array if I declare it on the inside. What I'm doing is I'm filling that array with values, and then once I've filled that array with values, I'm telling the program, here are the values for that array. So this is messy. You can see this is messy because I'm using the same array over and over. In fact, because we're redimming it, we need to do it at the top. So we're redimming a temporary array, which we will fill with the weights, and then we'll fill that weights and pass that along to our weight. I'm sorry if that confuses you now. I did not think about that when I decided I'm going to do that property method. But this basically fills those values with the weights and now gives us the results that we want. And then here we can just place our results quickly. Trusting that I did not miss, but this is what happens when you try and do these things too quickly. You make silly mistakes. Absolute silly mistakes. Right. Then we've got C, and then echo. I'm assuming someone wanted to ask something quickly. You can ask away if you want to. Okay. So I'm just placing the name inside the grid, and I'm placing the array inside the grid as well, just the value. We'll just convert that. Okay, everybody happy with that? I sincerely hope I don't confuse too many people now, which I'm assuming I am confusing people right now. Please explain the local variable array. All right, so what I'm doing here is, remember when we created our property method? We're taking this in as the entire array. We're not taking it in as array as one item at a time, which means that I have access to the entire array, which means I retrieve the entire array, but I also need to set it based on the entire array because the value that's being given needs to be an array, the entire array. So I need to give it the entire value. I can't just give it one value at a time. So me declaring that local variable is just so that I have that temporary array that we're going to fill and then pass that temporary array to our weight inside our class to become the values that need to be stored for the client. Right? So let's make sure that actually works. It's just because we've been showing you what we're doing with oh, I need to share my screen with you if you want to see that. Just going to swap over here, share my entire screen. It's just so that you can see, instead of working with the entire array, if you just work with the individual value. So we've got 4 weeks, 3 clients. So that populated for us. We input client A is 1, gender is 1. So this would be week 1. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can see it works. Client B, age 2, client gender 2. Weight will be, let's go 10, 20, 30, 40. So it pops up nicely. Client B, age 3, gender 3, weight 12, 14, 16, 18. 19. Okay. Our values place, it works perfectly, and then with place results, this would have been our total, and that would have been our average. Okay. So that works. Now that we've written all our values, we can go and do our calculations. So, first things first, first thing we want to display. We wanted to go and display our total, and we wanted to go and display our average for each client. We already have those values. So for each client, as total weight gain, number of weeks, and that will return a double. So now we need a place to place. We need a place to put this value, and this would be inside place result, and that would be client 0, so row 0. That would be a number of weeks plus 1, and then our value, which we just need to convert to a right, and that places the I'm missing a bracket somewhere, aren't I? Yeah. That places the total, and then we want to place our average as well. So we just go and change that to our average calculation. And that will just place our average weight gained. Everybody happy with that one? So all I'm doing is I'm just going to the grid, telling them for client C at the spot where our total weight gain should be displayed. And then I'm calling the class and using the function already inside that class to go and calculate the total weight gain for me and place that into the grid. And I'm doing the same for the average weight gain. So that calculates it inside the class already for you. So you don't need to go and recalculate that. The only thing that we need to calculate is the overall average, because I need to declare this at the top. So we want to go and calculate the overall average for the client. Which means that we've got our total plus equals the value we've got from the client. So that adds the total for each client to our current total, which gives us the overall total gained weight for all our clients. And to get the average, we just simply need to divide that by the number of weeks we have. I mean, by the number of clients we have, because it's the total weight gain for our clients. And to get the average, we divide that by the number of clients we have. So txt average dot text equals, let's convert this already, which is our total divided by our n number of clients. I'm assuming everybody is happy with those calculations. These calculations shouldn't be surprising you because it's things you did in your practical. That's why I'm willing to kind of speed through them like this. So that's what I'll get you a question now. Let's just quickly see if this function works. So we've got 4 weeks, 3 clients. Let's just go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Client 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then client 3. Let's give this actually values so that we can track to see if it's working. So 10, 12, 14, and 16. Right. We've got our values. So the total weight gain here, as you can see, the weight stayed the same at 1. The second one, the weight stayed the same at 2. And then the last one, the weight increased by 2 each week. So when we calculate this, and we have an issue. Let's see, what did we do wrong? Row, column, that is wrong. Okay, so we'll fix that in a second. So Y both total and average is n plus 1. Yes, that was incorrect. So that should have been the total, and this should have been the average, but my average is wrong. And I think I know why. Yeah, that's why. I knew I was going to make this mistake. All right. We'll get back to this in a second. Don't forget about that, but we'll get back to that one in a second. So once again, 4 clients, 4 weeks, 3 clients, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. 3, and then 3 we want to put actual values there, so that's still 3, that's still 3, that's going to be 10, 12, 14, and 16. So the total weight gain here should be 0. The total weight gain there should be 0, and the total weight gain here should be 6. And then the average should be 0, 0, and then that should be 2. Let's see. Still wrong. So we've got our value there. Those two are correct now. But now we can see that we're duplicating that in our entire grid. So we're making a mistake. And I'm going to ask you, you can tell me what the mistake is. Because I know where the mistake is now. Such a silly mistake as well. Okay. So let's rather continue. So the problem is I'm overriding all the values, but this is working correctly. Taking in our rows for each client. So would it be okay if you use the Maxmin algorithm to compute the total and the average? In this case, it would be wrong. Because remember, the total weight is... Why do you want to use Maxmin? Did you want to compare the maximum weight to the minimum weight to get the total difference in those two values? That's not the... Look, if you weigh yourself, let's say you start tracking your weight from today on. And let's say today you weigh 100 kilograms. You weigh yourself next week, and next week you weigh 110 kilograms. How much weight did you gain from now until next week, Monday? 10 kilograms. Okay. Let's say today you weigh 100 kilograms. Tomorrow you weigh 99 kilograms. The day after that you weigh 98 kilograms. The day after that you weigh 100 kilograms. The day after that you weigh 104 kilograms, then 108 kilograms, and then 110 kilograms. How much weight have you gained in that week? Are you going to take the minimum value? Would you take it as 13 kilograms? Because what's your starting point? Your starting point is 100 kilograms. And then your ending point is 110 kilograms. Because the one thing that most of you are not keeping in mind when you do these calculations is you want to compare week by week. If you do that, when you lose weight, you're subtracting that value as well. So from today to tomorrow, which is 99, I'm going to have -1 total gain. To the next day, I'm going to have -2 total gain. So when you say 13 kilograms, that's the total accumulated weight. That's not the total weight gained. Because if you're tracking positive in that same manner, you need to track the negative as well. And everyone is forgetting about the negative value. You're just tracking the positive value. So ultimately, if you track it day by day, you should get the same result as the total accumulative weight as well. That actually doesn't make a difference. So what's being calculated here is just adding the total weight from the client and adding that to total. But remember, we're not displaying this total, so that's not interfering here. The issue is it's displaying the value, the same value for all three of them. Now, is it an issue with the algorithm? Is it an issue with the value? Or is it an issue with capturing the information? No, we're also not looking for the total accumulated weight. So isn't the overall average? Wait, that last comment is a bit confusing. Isn't the overall average plus equals client total weight then lines? Are you talking about this line? Because look, the total weight is the total weight gained by each client. So you're looking at the total weight gained by each client. So let's say client 1 gained 10 kilograms, client 2 gained 20 kilograms, and client 3 gained 30 kilograms. What is the average weight gain by your clients? That would be those three values combined divided by the 3, which would be, well, in that case, I think it should be 13. I mean 15, not 13, 15. Just want to see, I broke something here. It's not with our input unless. So I'm reading in my for loop, getting my value for each client, replacing the value for the array, so that is correct. I'm taking my value C, which should increment. You know what? Let's do this the easy way. Let me just do a yeah. Just want to do a breakpoint there. Let's look at what I'm doing wrong. We just cancel this quickly. Stop that. Client input, so client 1, 2, client 3, and this is the idea of having test results. So you know what the value should be, but you can see something is going wrong, and I'm already seeing that it's not taking my breakpoint. And it's because I just made a mistake there. Okay, I am unfortunately going over time now. So let me quickly fix this. I think I know where the issue is. I know you guys are loving this. Yes, the lecturer is making a mistake. Right. So let's look at the actual values being output here. So we've got integer. We've got a number of weeks is 4. I'll check the methods in a moment. All right. So this should give me the client information. So client 1, all the information is 1, and our weights. Oh, what do we have here? 3333. So it's the assignment that's wrong, because this is now, okay, so this is the debugger now. So we can see if we step into this, you can extract more information here. I know no one is perfect, but I want it to be perfect for you guys. Right. So this is our client number one because that information is correct, and we've got our weights, but we can see that the weights are all 3. So for some reason, the issue is over here. Let me see. Mr. Cottrell, can you see what the mistake here is? I'm completely overlooking what the issue is. So we've got our weights. So you see, it's because I tried doing this with you guys without testing it out first. I'm taking my array, and somehow this is giving me the wrong result. I'm overriding my values for some reason. Okay. Andreas.
Hold on, Mr. Show me the outputs again.
The outputs.
Where you debug what's being stored inside the array.
Oh,
Are they all the same?
yeah, it's all this. Well, it's the third client. I use the same values. So it's taking the client, the third client, or the last input, and placing that inside all the arrays.
Wait. No, that's not it. That's not it. It's not your input. It's not your assignment.
Because I have no assignment somewhere else.
Show me the result. What does
Oh,
it actually print? I didn't see that part.
let's step over this. Well,
So
that is actually correct now, but that's only because it's. Let me actually put actual values in there. Okay, I'm gonna keep this recording going. We are over time now. I'm gonna keep this recording going so you guys can actually see the debugging process now. Okay, so you're going to put actual values in this time. 12, 14, 16. Line 2, we'll keep that 2. We'll put 20, 24, 28, and 32. And then client 3. And we'll make that, let's take 100, 110, 120, 130. Calculate that. So see, before we step into this.
Let's check what's in the array first.
Yeah, it's taking the last value, putting that inside the array. So the problem is here.
Let me look at that code.
No, because it's duplicating the last one.
Right.
So if you run through this logically, you take the name, you change the name, you take the age, you change the age, you take the gender, you change the gender, you take the for loop.
That's correct.
Change the values inside the array, you place those results, which it does, and then you take that array and pass it along to the weights inside class. But somehow this is overriding every single one of them.
Do a breakpoint at next. Run the input and see what it does.
Okay. So you run this. Let's minimize this now. But let's keep it the same. Okay, so we've got client 1, age 1, gender, so we've got 10, 20, 30, 40. So let's check.
Check that it's got check the values.
Values are correct.
Values are correct. Now do the next one and just see where does it change.
Okay. 9222. Then we've got our 20. Let's make it 40 minus 4. Okay, we'll make the next one 40. 60. Okay. That is correct. I want to see.
Go to clients. Clients, you should be able to pick up all of them. Oh, expand clients.
There. There, it's replacing every single one of them.
So it's going backwards in replacement. So whatever the last value enters, replacing them retroactively.
It's interesting because this line should not be doing that.
No, it shouldn't. Let me see your property.
Say again?
Show me your property method.
Well, that shouldn't be changing the values of all the others.
No, it shouldn't.
Okay, I have a fun thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to find the solution to this, just not right now. But I'm willing to give any person that finds the correct answer for why this code is doing this, I'll give you 1 week. If you find the correct solution to this problem, why it's doing this, I'm willing to give you, what do we say, 5 bonus marks for their practical?
You can sweeten the pot, 5% on any practical they choose.
Ooh, 5% on any practical they choose. And it's recorded, so you have proof that we have this challenge for you. Now, obviously, don't go and share it with anybody because you guys want that for yourself. So I actually kind of suspect I know where it's going wrong, but I'm going to leave it there. Let's just correct this. So everything else in this program works perfectly. The outputs are correct, as we can see. It's just because this line is overriding all of the other values, it's giving me the wrong results. So as you can see, even though logically it should be working correctly, for some reason it is not working correctly. And I will tell you on Thursday. No, in fact, I'll tell you next week, Tuesday. I'll give you guys 1 week. I'll tell you next week, Tuesday, why it is doing this. But for now, I'm going to put that challenge out there for you guys. So that is the practical. Aside from me wanting to do this fun thing, which now slightly backfired, it's caused a small issue, but everything else works perfectly. I can guarantee you that. All right. Now I'm going to stop the recording here, and then I'm going to address Omar's consideration of that week to week. If we take the week to week comparison. So for those that don't want to see that, you are more than welcome to leave. I see some of you have already started leaving. It is now officially overtime, so that's why I'm going to stop the recording. But if you want to see what Omar was talking about and what I talked to him about in terms of the week-to-week comparison, comparing just the last week, the first week, you can stick around to see that.